Hello students, welcome back to LFI Educates. So we're going to start with another chapter, that is chapter 4 from the prose section, from the diary of Anne Frank. So let's get into the topic. A brief history about the author. Anneliese Mary or Anne Frank was a German-Dutch diarist of Jewish origin. She gained fame posthumously with the publication of The Diary of a Young Girl, in which she documents her life in hiding from 1942 to 1944 during the German occupation of the Netherlands in World War II. So in this chapter, the writer Anne Frank tells about her true companion, that is a diary. She writes everything about her life in her diary and considers it as a true friend. At the time of invasion of German over Holland, her family hid itself. At that time, she started writing in her diary, which her father gifted her. She spent her adolescent years hiding from the outside world, and her diary kept all her secrets. Anne Frank's first entry in her diary. Anne Frank, a 13-year-old girl, was gifted a diary by her father. So she decided to write in her diary, which she considered it to be her best friend in loneliness, and she also named her diary as Kitty. She began writing in June 1942. So in her first entry, she expressed her desire to confide everything to the diary, as she hadn't been able to do so to anyone else. She felt that paper had more patience than people. And secondly, she thought that nobody would be interested in her diary as she was a small girl. Anne Frank called her father the most adorable person. So he was 36 years old when he married her mother, who was just 25. Anne Frank, she had an older sister by the name Margot, and she had about 30 people around her, but she had no true friend. They lived in Frankfurt for some time, but as they were Jewish, they had to migrate to Holland for refuge. Anne was sent to a Montessori nursery school. She stayed there until she was 6. At her farewell, she and her headmistress, Mrs. Couperus, had tears in their eyes. In the summer of 1941, her grandmother fell ill. She had to be operated upon, but she died in 1942. It gave Anne a shock, and she did not write in her diary in that period. But after that, she wrote again, as she thought of her grandmother's love and affection. Anne was not good at maths, so she and her friends, they were always worried about it, but she was sure that she would pass and go to the next class. She always considered teachers to be the most unpredictable creatures on the earth. So at the time of the result, she told her friends not to lose hope. Anne was a good student and had a very good relationship with all the teachers except Mr. KEESING, who was her mathematics teacher. He was always annoyed by her talkative nature. Maybe Anne was very talkative in his class, and that annoyed him. So he used to give her extra homework as punishment. He asked her to write an essay. So as a punishment, he asked her to write an essay on a chatterbox. He also put a slip of it on her back to remind her about her essay, her punishment. So when she was given the punishment to write the essay on a chatterbox, Anne was unable to understand what she would write in the essay. She started writing to consider it a necessity. She wrote the 3 pages for her satisfaction. She defined it as a feature of a student and also mentioned that she inherited this talkative trait from her mother, who used to talk much. Mr. KEESING read Anne's essay in front of the whole class and laughed at it. During the 3rd lesson, he had finally had enough, and as a punishment for talking in the class, he gave her another topic, an incorrigible chatterbox, and quack, 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 said Mistress Chatterbox. So he gave her those topics to write an essay on it. This time, Anne wanted to write something interesting and different. So, with the help of her friend Shane, who was very good at poetry, she wrote an essay in verse. It was about three ducklings going dead because their father duck beat them as they quacked too much. Mr. KEESING took the joke in the right way and didn't bother Anne for talking after that incident. So since then, she was not given any extra homework and she was allowed to talk inside his class. And Mr. KEESING started making jokes after that. Alright, so that is the end of this chapter. I hope you have learned something through this video. So I'll be seeing you in the next video. Till then, take care.